people like me. You need people like me so you can point your fucking fingers and say, that's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy.
Okay, we'll start with this. It was announced this past weekend that October 17th, on the undercard of Conway vs. Litter, Shannon Ryan will be taking on Chloe Watson in what is a fantastic fight if you are familiar with the both of these fighters. Both of these fighters that have one loss apiece, both of these fighters that don't have an O to protect. Shannon Ryan, who used to box on the Boxer Sky Sports side of things, and eventually migrated over to Matchroom, sporting a professional record of 9 wins with 1 loss, no draws, 1 recorded knockout, having never been knocked out in 10 professional fights. That lone defeat was at the hands of Emma Doolin. Approximately 3 fights ago, currently, Shannon is on a 2-fight winning streak. Will she extend it when she meets Chloe Watson, who sports a professional record of 8 wins with 1 loss, no draws, no recorded knockouts, having never been knocked out in 9 professional bouts? When you talk about the both of these fighters, you're talking about fighters that are on an even keel. Similar number of bouts, similar level of experience in the paid ranks as professionals, even 1 or 2 common opponents. The both of them have shared the ring with Jasmina Sapotoczna of Poland. The difference being that when Shannon fought Jasmina, she won. It was difficult, but she eked it out, whereas when Chloe fought Jasmina, she lost. She lost a split decision, and that was earlier this year in March. Now they've thrown her in the meat grinder. Thrown Chloe in the meat grinder. From Jasmina Sapotoczna to Shannon Ryan. That has all the makings of a sink-or-swim fight for her. It's a sink-or-swim fight, I think, for Shannon, too. Shannon's been on Matchroom for a few fights now. A few? At least 5 or 6, by my count. And it feels like with this fight, she has to justify her existing presence there. This is not a developmental fight. This is not a bring-along fight. This is a fight where there is a legitimate chance that Shannon could lose. So what do you need to know about these fighters? They both got the same sweet spot, Chloe and Shannon. They're both mid-range to inside fighters. I will say that punch for punch, I think Shannon punches harder than Chloe Watson. Chloe doesn't have any recorded knockouts. Shannon does. Chloe and Shannon share about 2 or 3 common opponents. There's Jasmina Sapotoczna, there's Farah El-Busari, Kate Radomska. When Chloe fought Kate Radomska, she won a points decision. When Shannon fought Kate Radomska, she knocked her out in the 3rd round, scored a TKO stoppage in a contest scheduled for 8. She stopped it in 3. So the edge in power, I'd give that to Shannon. The edge in speed, quickness, and athleticism, I would give that edge to Shannon too. Where she's lacking is her cardio, is her engine. I think Chloe has a better engine than Shannon. Shannon carries noticeable musculature. You hear me say it all the time. That many more muscles on a boxer eat up that much more oxygen. More than once, I've seen Shannon tire. She puts a lot into those punches she throws. She can wear herself out, punch herself out, and that would theoretically leave the door open for Chloe to take over, because even though Chloe isn't as athletically gifted, she shows a better engine, I think, than Shannon Ryan. Slight edge to Shannon to win the fight. If I gotta pick somebody, I'm leaning towards Shannon to win the fight, but it's a really good one. She's gonna have to work hard for the victory. Same applies to Chloe Watson, who was outpointed by Jasmina Sapotoczna in her last fight. This fight is gonna be different from that one. For Chloe it is. In her last fight, she had to try to chase Jasmina down, pin her down to let go of some punches. She's not gonna have to chase Shannon. Shannon's not gonna have to chase her. They're both mid-range fighters. They've both got the same sweet spot. To get off their punches, they're gonna have to get in close. Fighting long range is not an option. This is a good one, and we'll talk more about it as the fight date approaches. Elsewhere in the world of boxing, the first leg of the Canelo vs. Crawford Fight Week undercard has finally been confirmed. Turkey has big plans, not just for that weekend, but for the whole week. The first leg of the blockbuster Canelo Alvarez vs. Terence Crawford Fight Week has finally been confirmed with a heavyweight showdown between top contenders Jarrell Big Gravy Miller, Big Gravy! Big Hungry, and Michael the Bounty Hunter. Ring Magazine outlined the news of a Thursday night event taking place 2 days before the headliner between Canelo and Crawford at Allegiant Stadium, what has all the makings of a boxing festival of sorts. With just over a month to go, fans who bought tickets for the original night faced anxiety over details surrounding Turki Alalshikh's 3-day undercard, purchasing separate tickets, finding out venues for alternative undercard fights, and more worries accompanied the lateness of the announcement. Finally, it came over the weekend. The Ring has confirmed that a cracking heavyweight showdown has been finalized between top contenders Jarrell Miller and Michael Hunter, said The Ring's social media. The fight will headline an event on September 11th in Las Vegas as part of the massive Canelo vs. Crawford Fight Week. September 11th falls on a Thursday this year, so you're gonna get a card on Thursday, another one on Friday, and the big card, the big one, on Saturday. As dry as the August schedule has been, this will be music to a boxing fan's ears. A real boxing fan. The matchup between Jarrell Miller and Michael Hunter is a solid addition to the Fight Week festivities. Miller, known for his relentless pressure and brash personality, will face off against Hunter, a slick, athletic heavyweight with a deep amateur pedigree. We know that Jarrell has had not one, but 2 fights fall through. It was initially reported that he would be facing Jared Anderson, the other big baby. Only 23! And a separate report that indicated Deontay Wilder, the former WBC champion, he rejected a fight with Jarrell Miller as well. Who would have thought that this many of the somebodies at the weight would be afraid to box Big Gravy? Big Hungry. Miller had wanted to fight Jared Anderson, but stated his rival slugger pulled out at the last minute. The ever-willing bogeyman Hunter gladly stepped in. Hunter had been awaiting news of a WBA regular title clash with Kubrat Pulev, but with the Bulgarian stalling, the Miller offer came at the perfect time. The winner will move one step closer to a secondary world title opportunity against Pulev unless Alexander Usyk vacates and drops the full title, at which point Kubrat Pulev could be elevated to full champion. You can believe that. Would be the WBA, wouldn't it? This bout marks a significant step in setting the stage for one of the most anticipated boxing events of the year. The inclusion of a high-stakes heavyweight contest on the undercard signals a commitment to delivering a whole week of top-tier boxing action for fans. Alalshikh has promised up to 19 or more undercard bouts over the Thursday, Friday, and Saturday nights, culminating in the big one for the undisputed super middleweight title. And as we all know, Canelo versus Crawford is not a box office fight. It's not a pay-per-view. So these undercard bouts over Thursday and Friday, they're likely not going to be pay-per-views either. I mean, if it's the way that it looks, we'll be able to watch this all on Netflix, and everybody's got Netflix. The first thing I want to address is Turkey's contribution to the sport of boxing and how, if not for Turkey, we literally wouldn't have anything to watch right now. Nothing to look forward to. Because what happened with the PBC was always going to happen. And what happened with Top Rank, that was always going to happen too. Their current broadcast situation, the PBC scaling down how many shows they do a year because they don't have a choice. They don't have the money. And Top Rank's deal with ESPN ending, that was always going to happen. Neither of those promotional outfits are doing any shows this month or the next one, or in September, so that if you wanted to watch boxing in September and Turkey weren't in the game right now, he weren't doing anything, you wouldn't have anything to watch as a boxing fan. Or as a content creator, you wouldn't have very much to talk about. You'd have to just keep mulling over the same old boring subjects that you've been over for the umpteenth time. You should thank your lucky stars that Turkey's not just making a night of it, he's making a week of it. 19 fights spread across 3 days of boxing, 3 days of action, and people have the audacity to try to say he's bad for boxing? Bad how? Explain it to me. What's the bad part? What's the downside? What is this guy doing that's so wrong, except calling upon the best fighters in the sport, the best fighters in the world, to fight for the most money for them and the most entertainment for us. What's supposed to be the bad part? The content creators should be especially thankful that even though two major promotional outfits in the sport have fallen on hard times, you're still getting content. You're still getting boxing. You're still getting something to stream live on your channels, something to report on, something to do. Stop beating around the bush. If there ain't no boxing on, there's no way for a lot of yous to make money, you content creators. The way it breaks down, you'll have plenty to talk about in the coming weeks as more news develops, as more information is shared. Bozos. Now let's talk about the fight. Let's talk about the fighters. Jarrell Miller sports a professional record of 26 wins with 1 loss, 2 draws, 22 knockouts, having been knocked out just once in 29 professional bouts. To Michael Hunter, who sports a professional record of 24 wins with 1 loss, 2 draws, 17 knockouts, having never been knocked out in 27 professional bouts. We haven't seen or heard all that much from Michael Hunter in previous years, but he has been staying active. He has been busy. He's currently on a 4-fight winning streak. After that split draw with Jerry Forrest in December of 2021, he sat out all of 2022, came back in 2023, and he fought 4 times last year in 2024. So he has been busy. Even if you haven't been seeing him, he has been fighting. What I remember of Michael Hunter, not the biggest puncher, not a heavyweight with all that big a punch, but he was very big on movement, athleticism. There was a point where he was very sharp. Halfway decent guy, he was good. Jarrell Miller, comparatively, is coming off that majority draw with former Unified champion Andy Ruiz that, in my opinion, should have been an emphatic win for Jarrell Miller. I remember that fight on the undercard of Crawford versus Madrimov in August of last year. Jarrell Miller was doing all the work. Jarrell Miller was the only one making it a fight, and Andy Ruiz, to my surprise, just did a lot of moving away from the pocket, not wanting to engage. I would say that Andy Ruiz was running from Jarrell Miller, but if you've seen Andy, you'll know that running is really not his strong suit. But he definitely didn't want to trade. He definitely didn't want to sit in the pocket with Jarrell Miller. And where I think Jarrell should have got the decision on activity alone, they scored it a draw. We haven't seen Andy since then, but we haven't seen Jarrell either. Though it's not for lack of trying. Jarrell Miller was supposed to return to action several times since then. He was supposed to do a fight with Derek Chisora, but that fell through. Then afterwards, he was supposed to do a fight with Fabio Wardley. That fell through also. Justice Hooney stood in for Jarrell. That's how that happened. More recently, the Jared Anderson fight fell through, and some reports indicate that a Wilder fight fell through also. And so the effort to get Jarrell Miller out there fighting in front of an audience has been a persistent one. Just about as persistent as Jarrell Miller is in the ring, because he's a pressure guy. He's a pressure fighter, a very big one, a physically imposing pressure fighter that often weighs in excess of 300 pounds. So this has given rise to questions as to why is there such an effort to get behind a known ped cheat, a guy who popped hot for more than one ped more than once. Why does the sport of boxing keep letting this guy back in? Because there's more guys like him. I know you don't want to hear this, but Jarrell Miller is no more a ped cheat than Tyson Fury, than Canelo Alvarez, or Conor Benn, or Amir Khan, or a myriad of fighters that have all popped hot. Than Oscar Valdez, than Ray Vargas, or Luis Nery. It's a long list. It's a very long list. You know it is. And if you had to bar and ban every fighter that ever tested positive for a banned substance, a lot of guys you like would be out of a job. My old staff sergeant, Michael Montero, reacted to this news by saying it's kinda sad but not surprising that Jarrell Miller, a serious ped cheat, continues to get opportunities. Even sadder, but also not surprising, that members of the media are trying to promote his upcoming fight against Michael Hunter as a 50-50 meaningful fight. I used to really dig into the ped issue, spent a lot of time learning and reporting on it, but I subsequently realized that it was a waste of my time, and now I just enjoy the fights that interest me. I've since learned that you can't take this sport too seriously. No, you can't, nor the people in it. If the sport of boxing as a whole, as a community, wanted ped cheats out of the sport, then they'd be out of the sport. But if they're not banned for life, if they're not barred, It's because the sport of boxing doesn't want them to be. It's something I wrestled with for years. The idea that all the top-level guys and girls might be on something, and everybody knows it, they just don't say it because they don't want to be held liable. It's something that I myself wrestled with for years, but I came to accept that when there are hundreds of thousands and millions upon millions of dollars involved, and the difference between winning and losing might be as simple as a little needle in the butt, a lot of fighters, a lot of people are gonna do what they have to do. I don't think of the pet issue, as it were, as being an issue. The sport of boxing doesn't have an issue with peds. It has an issue covering them up.
It needs to do a better job.
So I can only offer up the same advice that my buddy Michael offered up. This sport, don't take it too seriously. And just in keeping with the theme of not taking things too seriously, Jarrell Miller added, I know for a fact I can beat Alexander Usyk. With me training and me having a proper training camp, I know I can beat Usyk. I would run him over.
It's not a fight I want to spend a lot of time on. Mental energy.
Because in all likelihood, we won't get it. Alexander Usyk has indicated he's got, 1 or 2 more fights left in him? And what are the odds that he's going to give Jarrell Miller the time of day? I would sooner expect Usyk to box Joseph Parker, his mandatory challenger via the WBO, or somebody else, not Jarrell Miller.
Thinking about an Usyk versus Miller fight, though, it's intriguing in its own way because Jarrell Miller's approach would be the same as Derek Chisora's approach years ago. And what was Derek's approach? The bum's rush. Give Usyk the bum's rush and keep him under pressure. For at least a few rounds, it was working until Usyk found his distance and found his groove. He looked uncomfortable at first,
but he eventually settled in and won the fight. It's also important to note that that fight with Derek was years ago. Usyk was still very new to the heavyweight division. That was only his second fight in. A lot of time has passed. A lot has happened since then, a lot of fights. And Usyk, he's a lot more comfortable banging with the big boys now, boxing with the big men.
What would this fight look like? Well, we know who's going to be coming forward most of the time. It's going to be Jarrell Miller, but there's a noticeable difference in hand speed and foot speed between these fighters to where Usyk's going to try to keep distance, walk Jarrell Miller into punches. Jarrell Miller's going to barrel forward, trying his best to close the gap.
But because he's slower on his feet, with slower hands, he's going to get hit. And he's going to get hit a lot.
I think it would be target practice for Alexander Usyk, and I think he could force a late stoppage because Usyk has a way of tiring these guys out, forcing them to work in a way that they don't even realize, and before you know it, they're tired.
He also has a way of changing the cadence on his punches to where you don't see the hard ones coming. He pity-pats you, and bam!
Boom!
He sneaks a hard one in there, one you don't brace yourself for, like what he just did to Daniel Dubois.
And that counter that he landed on Fury in their first fight, the one where he ragdolled him. I think Usyk would win the fight, for what it's worth, if there were a fight, but like I said, I don't think there's going to be one.